There is no, the compound is not hooked up to the city water supply, and indeed the only water available comes from a lake that is on the property, the 77-acre ranch. The pump, however, has been disabled. Now, with us now is CNN's Flip Spiceland, who can give us an idea of how weather would play a role in a fire like this. Flip?
Well, Bonnie, we just here at the CNN Weather Center just checked our computer and found that it is a very, very windy area, but you can look at the video and tell that. Wind speeds are from the south at about 17 miles an hour currently, but that is a sustained wind. The winds have actually been picking up throughout the morning hours, and we have been seeing wind gusts near 30 miles an hour all morning long. And again, indications are that it's actually getting windier rather than calming down. So we expect wind speeds of up to 30 miles an hour throughout much of the afternoon. Bonnie?
Thanks, Flip. About 4 or 5 weeks ago, Special Agent Bob Ricks did say, quote, "We own the compound." And one thing that we can tell you now is that agents, federal agents indeed, were constantly in position within 50 feet of the compound, and that federal officials were also employing a very high-tech robot of sorts that had 7 cameras and was able to peek in windows 2 or 3 stories high by elevating a pole with the cameras inside. We know from our sources that the Branch Davidians were aware of the robot, but were not sure of its capabilities and therefore did not attack it in any way. Mike, what's the latest? Have you been able to see the fire trucks get to work?
Yes, Bonnie. We have a picture of the fire trucks entering the area where the FBI agents have been, and it's still going to take them a couple of minutes to get up over to the compound itself to even begin to put what little water they have access to on that fire. If this is like a normal pumper truck, they're probably carrying 350 to 500 gallons of water on board, and that's it. And that's not much to pour on any kind of a fire, let alone one of that magnitude.
On the phone with us right now is Ken Hines, who's a fire protection specialist. Mr. Hines, as you're watching these pictures, what could you come up with? What sort of plan? Is there a plan that fire officials could use now?
Well, I'm sure that the fire department have been in contact with the federal authorities in terms of something like this occurred. As you mentioned, in terms of fire protection and try to extinguish the fire department has to bring their water with them. So in a situation like this, what they would do would be to try to find an external water source in a location that would protect their firefighters if there would be any type of gunfire involved or anything like that, and establish a water supply, what we would call a relay pump, providing water to those fire engines right at the scene to deliver the water. The building's collapsed. The threat to the firefighters right now, I would assume, would be the tense situation in terms of is the scene secure? Is there anybody inside that may do harm not only to law enforcement but also to firefighters?
Well, as you can see in the live pictures, there's virtually very little of the building left, a drastic difference from what we saw just about an hour ago.
Right.
Given the fact that there are also explosives inside, that must also add an entirely new and different element to fighting such a fire.
Well, in a situation like this, the fire department of Waco won't send anybody in. We in the fire service call this strictly a defensive fire. They'll set up their master streams on the top of the fire trucks, much like you saw in Los Angeles a year ago during the riots, and they'll apply large volumes of water to extinguish the fire. They may leave those unmanned, move their firefighters to the opposite side of where the fire is. If there are any projectiles from explosives or ammunition catches inside the building, that would protect those firefighters. Now, the danger to firefighters comes into play when they're trying to drag hose lines or things like that. I would imagine, obviously, they're going to position their equipment upwind and do the best they can. In terms of a fire operation and tactics involved, they'd be there for a great deal of time doing the salvage and overhaul to make sure the building's out. Now, I heard you ask earlier about the bunker, and the law enforcement official was correct that the fire burns up and the heat burns up. But as the building collapses, that would prevent any escape from that bunker, at least on the top of the building.
About the underground bunker, can people survive if they were in that underground bunker underneath what is happening right now?
I don't know that much. I've watched your coverage for the last 45 days, and I don't know the construction or the type of ventilation system they have. No one can survive smoke products if they're exposed to them unless they have what we call self-contained breathing apparatus, or the air bottles that the firefighters wear on their back. If there's some type of filtration system, or it has a an airtight system that draws air, maybe from another location rather than around the fire, I would imagine they could survive. But nobody can survive the products of fire or smoke.
Mr. Hines, please stand by for just a moment. I'd like to ask you some more questions, but first, Cheryl Atkinson is with us with some late-breaking news.
Well, Bonnie, this report, the White House says that according to its Justice Department, the cult members apparently set that fire that is consuming the compound near Waco, Texas. Of course, there was no way to know for certain how that fire started, the speculation that it had come from inside, and now the White House is quoting its Justice Department people as saying the cult members did set that fire. Bonnie?
Mr. Hines, just judging by how quickly it spread, was it your belief as well that this was not just a fire that spread in its natural progression, but was indeed perhaps aided?
Well, the fire folks in Waco, or the county around Waco, could provide you more information as to the construction of the building, but it appeared to be ordinary wood construction, and as I saw the fire unfold, I don't know whether there was some type of an accelerant or they set the building to burn. That would be something that could be determined by the alcohol, tobacco, and firearms folks, along with the state agency down there, but it definitely was burning with a great deal of ferocity.
At this point, what kind of effect could 2 fire trucks have on this? I mean, it appears that there is virtually no building left. What steps would they take now to try to perhaps go into the bunkers?
Well, I would imagine that the strategy that the fire folks there would use, and not to put words in their mouth, I don't like to second guess anybody, but that they would start there on the upwind side and work their way back, extinguishing the fire under protection of the law enforcement folks. I can't imagine them pulling any hand lines off or getting into any type of hand line advancement until the area has been secured. That's just not good tactics for firefighters and until the scene's secured.
Mike Capps, are you on with us?
Yes, I am, Bonnie.
Mr. Hines, if you will stay with us, let's just see if we can get an update from Mike Capps, who is in Waco on the scene.
Okay, that's fine. I also have a question for him before we go. It appears that there was a lot of heavy black smoke, and you mentioned an accelerant. If, in fact, the cult members did start this fire, what are you talking about in terms of an accelerant?
Well, as you saw the fire burn, it was very heavy black smoke. Now, that's pretty common for any type of a structure fire, because what that is, those are the products that your couches, your chairs, your nylon-based products will give off heavy black smoke. That's pretty common. Anything that's a petroleum-based fire will give off heavy black smoke also. We know whether it's diesel fuel burning or gasoline or anything like that. I don't know what the products were inside the building. I didn't see any explosions. I didn't see any type of what would give the indication of like rocket shells or anything like that exploding. So
since we've been chatting, we did have, or before you and I started chatting, there was an explosion right before the firefighters went in there. Mm-hmm. And they are in there now. We've seen the fire trucks come up and in there, so they must feel reasonably secure that the scene itself is secure.
Yeah, and I'm sure that, as I mentioned before, I'm sure that the fire department had an operational plan worked out with the federal authorities and the state authorities in the event something like this would occur. And I can see the firefighters here on the screen in front of me that they're advancing some hand lines to the area where they has to be secured.
Mm-hmm. How much manpower are you talking about to operate 2 trucks like that? That's not a very big manpower commitment.
Well, normally complement would be 3 to 4 persons per truck. Looks like a chief's car rolled in, which probably contained maybe 2 or 3 firefighters or command officers to interface and liaison with the federal authorities. And I'm sure that the fire department also has someone there at the federal command post to try to control what they do. You can see the firefighter there in front of you has the self-contained breathing apparatus on and is working along the proper safety lines to do what he needs to do.
It's an amazing scene because 2 hours ago there were buildings there, and
right.
Now there are none.
Right.
And it's
well, once again, water supply is key, and being familiar with the Waco area, but not specifically where this is, I don't know where your nearest water supply is, but in order to establish this and control the fire department has to bring the water with them, as you mentioned, and those engines as you mentioned, can contain anywhere from 300, maybe even up to 750 gallons worth of water, which is not near enough water to extinguish even the fire that you see now.